Alright guys, so now we're going to work backwards just a little bit. What we've been doing is taking the equation and finding the roots. Well, now we're going to start with the roots and work back to the equation. So, to remember how we do that, I'm going to put problem 1 that we did earlier today back up. And if we start at the bottom where I know what the roots are, let's look at our steps going backwards. From here, I would need to put the 5 back over there with the x so that it's equal to 0. And then each of these things equal to 0 should be multiplied together. And then actually multiply them out, and there's your equation. So let's see if we can do that with this one. So what I've actually got here is I have x equals 2 and x equals 3. For both of those, move the number back with the x. So that's going to be x minus 2 equals 0 and x minus 3 equals 0. Now, I want to put those two things in parentheses as factors, and you can set it equal to 0 or you can set it equal to y. I'm good with either one. But now you've actually got to multiply these. So how do you multiply those? FOIL, or you could double distribute, which is just taking the x times both of those and then take negative 2 times both of those. Okay, so when I multiply, I'm going to get x squared minus 3x minus 2x plus 6. Combine your like terms. You can write it's equal to 0, or you can go the one extra step and set it equal to y. I'm good with either one of those. Positive 6. Oh, yep, you're right. Yep, those negatives are dangerous. Y'all are not the only ones that miss them. Okay, is that too terribly bad? No. Alright, so let's move on down here to problem 3, part A. I want you to do the first couple of steps here. Set it up, move it all back to the same side, put it in parentheses, and then wait just a second. Alright guys, I need to see if everybody got to here. Alright, so now I've got to multiply these together. Somebody tell me how we're going to do that. I do 2 parentheses, so which 2 do you want to start with? Okay, so I'm going to multiply those 2 together, get that answer, and then multiply it times here. So these 2, it's nice to multiply those together because that's actually like a difference of squares. Okay, those are going to cancel, so I'm left with x squared minus 4. Now bring down my x minus 3. And now we've got to multiply those. You can do FOIL with those, distribute both of the things in the first one to both of the terms in the second one, and I get x cubed minus 3x squared minus 4x plus 12 equals 0, or go that one extra step and set it equal to y. Alright, is that too terribly bad? Okay. One more. So for this one at the bottom, I want you to start it just like you did this one, and when you get to the point where you've got them all in parentheses, I want you to stop just a second. Alright, Alright, so guys, when you're ready to check yours with mine, go ahead and do so. And notice, I combined a couple of steps when I did this. If you need me to go back and put them in, let me know and I can. Questions? Okay, so now I need somebody to tell me, how would you go about multiplying those together? Okay, so you could multiply these two together first, and then those two together and take your two answers. You could do that. Anybody else? Anybody want to do just the first two and just the last two? You could do that. Anybody see a shorter way for this problem? Okay, if you put those together, is that what you were saying? Or these two? I don't know if that makes it a whole lot shorter, but what I'm about to show you for this problem, it won't work for every problem, but this one we've actually got some background information on. Isn't this what we just did above? Yeah? So instead of doing all of that all over again, could I steal my answer from here and just put it down here? Yeah. Now, the danger with doing this if you're taking a test or something is, what if you got the wrong answer here and you use it here? Is there any way this next one's going to be right? No. So, on a test, you might not want to do that, but because I'm assuming we all got the same answer here, we can do it here. Because I seriously doubt we all got it wrong exactly the same way. So bring down my x plus 2, take my answer from above, and now we've got to multiply these together. Can I do FOIL here?
Yeah.
Because I don't have two binomials. I've got too many terms in this one. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to take this x, distribute it to all of these, then take the 2, distribute it to all of these. Okay, and guys, I want you to watch how I write this on my paper. You don't have to do it this way, but it's a good organizational thing. When I distribute my x, I'm going to get x to the 4th minus 3x cubed minus 4x squared plus 12x. I didn't do anything special there. But now when I distribute the 2, 2 times x cubed is 2x cubed. Instead of continuing to make a big list here, I'm going to put that 2x cubed underneath my other x cubed. That lets me go ahead and collect my like terms as I go. Yeah. I left off the x. Thank you. That would cause me some problems in a minute. You're right. There we go. So now, distribute my 2 here. Gives me negative 6x squared minus 8x. And then I don't have another plain old number, so I'm just going to stick the 24 out there at the end. By doing it this way, my like terms are already together. I don't have to hunt for them. And I like to do it this way because if I had a big old list, I would miss something. Like I said, you don't have to do this, but I think it's helpful. So, x to the 4th, combine these, gives me a negative 1x cubed minus 10x squared plus 4x plus 24, and you can set it equal to 0 or you can set it equal to y. Like I said before, I'm good with either of those. Alright, so then we've got one more thing. And again, if you printed the notes, I don't know if I just forgot to scan this page in, but it wasn't there. So flip over on the back and add this. You are all also going to need a graphing calculator. So if you haven't gotten one out of the bucket yet, go ahead and get one. Alright, so this is problem number 5. It's in your book on page 292, but I'm going to put it all right here. So you can look at the book if you want to, but you don't have to. So there. F of x equals x cubed plus 3x squared minus 24x. And the question they ask is, what are the relative maxima and relative minima of the function? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and list those down here so I can have a place to put my answers. Okay, so once you've got it copied, I need you to grab your calculator, type that equation in. Chances are it's already in there for you, but double check it to make sure that they typed it correctly last block. Alright, so there it is all typed in. Okay, how many of you already had it in your calculator? Okay, and chances are they adjusted the screen too. I want everybody to go ahead and press, once you've got it typed in, press Zoom 6. What you're going to do is press that little up arrow that's right above the divide. And did yours put it in a box, or did it show the little symbol? Okay, if it put it in the box, make sure you press the right arrow to get out of the box. That's the part I always forget to do. So once you've got it typed in, Zoom 6. And here's what your graph should look like. Now, thing is, I can't see how high or how low this goes. I really need to see higher and lower on this graph. Now, there's not a zoom thing that will just let me see higher and lower. And just hitting the zoom out, it doesn't always do quite what you want it to. So we're going to do this manually. So if you'll press the window button, it's the second one right under your screen. Which of these features here will let me see higher and lower? I need the Y minimum and maximum. So the Y minimum will change how low I can see. How low do you think we ought to make it?
30.
20, 30? Let's go 30. Let's not go quite as extreme as 100. And now Y maximum, about how high do you think we ought to go?
30.
30? Okay. If it's not right, we can always fix it. Now, before you do anything else, make sure the minimum is smaller than the maximum. If it's not, and you hit graph, it's going to give you a dimensions error. Okay, so anytime you're doing something on the calculator, it gives you a dimensions error. It probably has to do with your maximum and minimum being backwards. Alright, so go ahead and hit graph. Oh, can't see high enough. Oh, I can see low enough, so I don't have to change my minimum. Let's go back and adjust that Y maximum again. Okay, somebody must have tried 50. What do y'all want to go to?
80.
80.
Barely. It like touches the top.
It touches the top. So, I think this is close enough you can leave it, especially for what we're going to do. We've got to calculate the maximum and the minimum here. Well, I thought I had some editing or annotating tools. I do, but I can't see those when I've got my calculator up. That's awesome. Well, what I want you to see is that if we look at just, well, I can't even draw a box. Look at the hill over here. Alright, back here. If we take a look at the top of this hill, isn't this very tip top, isn't that a maximum for that left-hand side of the graph? If I'm only looking at the part on the left of the x-axis, that's a maximum. But it's not a maximum for the whole graph, because that right-hand side continues up forever, doesn't it? So, that top of the hill there, they call it a relative maximum because it's a maximum point relative to that part of the graph. And then the valley down here, that is a relative minimum because it's the lowest point relative to that portion of the graph. So what we're going to do with our calculator is we're going to calculate the relative maximum and relative minimum. So press your blue second button, and then the fourth button under the window. Notice in blue it says Calc. That brings up your Calculate menu. If I want to calculate the maximum, what number do I push? 4. So now, take a look at what it says at the bottom of your screen. It says left bound. What it wants us to do is it wants us to set a left boundary for that maximum point. So, using only the left and right arrow buttons. Yes?
I think you lost us on the cal button.
Okay, so let's go back and we'll do it again. So second, calculate. I want maximum, so press number 4. Got it? It's at the top. It's right under the screen.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so now number 4. And at the bottom of my screen there it says left bound. I want to select and create a left boundary. Using only the left and right arrow buttons, we want to move our cursor to the left of that hill. Do not press up and down, just left and right. Okay, once you get to the left of that hill, press enter. And notice, mine put a little vertical line. Yours probably didn't do the vertical line, but it does have a little triangle there at the top. Notice the bottom of your screen changed. It now says right bound. So it wants us to create a right boundary. So press the right arrow until you get to the right side of the hill. Press enter. And now I've got those 2 vertical lines there. You should have 2 arrows that are facing each other. And the top of that hill should be between the arrows. At the bottom of my screen it now says guess. So it's asking, do you want me to guess or calculate the maximum between those 2 boundaries we set? So press enter to tell it yes. And now look at the bottom of my screen. It tells me what the maximum is. Now, depending on exactly which points you selected, it might give you the negative 3.99998, or it might end in a 5. You might end up with exactly negative 4. It's because of the resolution, the pixel sizes, and that kind of thing. But even if we round all of the possibilities we could have gotten to 2 decimal places, what are you going to get for your ordered pair?
80.
2 decimal places is going to round to negative 4, comma 80. Okay? So here for my relative maximum, I'm going to write it on the bottom here, my relative maximum is negative 480. And then we're going to repeat the process for the relative minimum. So go back to second, calc. There's your calculate menu. What number do we need? 3. So use your arrows so that you get to the left side down there fairly close to the bottom of that hill, or sorry, bottom of the valley. So then press enter because we're creating our left boundary. Now my screen says right boundary, so go to the right of that valley, press enter, And so now, if you look at the top of my screen, you can see my two arrows that are pointing towards each other. Your arrows should always point towards each other. If they point opposite directions, you got to go back and start again. Okay? So press Enter so that it will find that minimum for us. If we round it to 2 decimal places, what are we going to have? 2, -28. Those are your relative maxima and relative minimums. Now, just in case you were curious, maxima is the plural of maximum. If there's more than one, and some of these graphs will have more than one. Minima is plural for minimum.